Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Travis McDermott, Commander of the Professional Development Unit. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Corporal Paul J. Sweeney Public Safety Building and thank everyone for joining us for the Department of Public Safety Award Ceremony. If everyone could please rise for the singing of the National Anthem, performed by paramedic Oliver Coker.
Detail, attend. Detail, present, oath.
Oh, who say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order, oath.
Thank you, Oliver. If I can now have Lieutenant Colonel Father David Murphy to the podium for the invocation.
Let us pray. O God, giver of all that is good, we gather to acknowledge your sons and daughters who have extended your goodness to others with their deeds and their actions. Grace us as only you can with your presence, and thereby complete our celebration. In this we make our prayer. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Father Murphy. This morning, we'll be recognizing members of the Division of Public Safety as well as members of the public for their outstanding accomplishments during the second half of 2019. And I would now like to call the Newcastle County Chief Administrative Officer, Vanessa Phillips, to the podium for the opening remarks.
Good morning, County Executive Meyer, members of our leadership team, public safety personnel, and distinguished guests. On behalf of the Executive Office and the various departments across county government, congratulations to all of today's honorees. Today, we are recognizing the significant accomplishments of 18 sworn personnel from the Division of Police, 19 paramedic professionals from the Emergency Medical Services Division, 45 telecommunicators and public safety operators from our Emergency Communications Division, and members of the Minquadale Fire Company, Minquis Fire Company, and the City of Newark. You all exemplify the dedication and commitment to the communities across Newcastle County, and therefore we commend you for your hard work during the second half of 2019. At this time, I would like to welcome County Executive Meyer up front for remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips, and good morning. Good morning. It's good to see everyone this morning. It's also great that we're graced by the presence of Councilwoman Kilpatrick, who is somewhere here in back, Mike Kozakowski, our Recorder of Deeds, our Attorney General, Kathy Jennings, thank you for being here. Karen Barlow, I think who's the aide for Bill Bell, Councilman Bill Bell is here as well. And thank all of you, Kiwanis Club, of course, for being here today. The most important thing that government does anywhere, local, state, federal, is we work for a secure, healthy, and safe society. It's the most important thing we do, hands down. The irony that I see every day in this job is that to properly fulfill that responsibility, to properly provide for the security, the health, and safety of residents across our county, and to do so with excellence takes tremendous courage, hard work, training, intelligence, and action. And today, we have an opportunity to recognize those who, in the course of a 6-month period, those police officers, paramedics, members of the fire service, emergency communicators, and those in emergency management who've gone above and beyond to provide that critical public service. I actually have a conflicting event right now. I'm in Newark at 10 a.m. if you see my schedule. But this is so important to me that I felt an obligation to come and personally say to each individual being honored today, thank you. It's not just me saying it, it's the people of this county and across our community. If you turn on the news these days, things just seem to get tougher and tougher and tougher. The risks to all of us, particularly uniformed personnel, seem to get greater and greater and greater. And I want you to know first and foremost how much all of us appreciate your extraordinary service, the extraordinary service of your families, of your loved ones every day when you go out the door. And second, how important it is to me personally and all of us in your county government leadership that we take every step, barring none, to keep you safe and secure as you do your jobs, physically and mentally. So I want to close just by thanking all of you for coming today. It's always inspiring to me to look across this room and see everyone from various departments of county government and across our county community, people who come forward to recognize your tremendous service. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Meyer. If I can now have the Acting Chief of Police, Major Rob McLucas, come to the front, as well as the Chief Administrative Officer, Vanessa Phillips, for the presentation of awards for the Division of Police. For those of you receiving awards, when your name is called, please come forward and face the audience as your accomplishment is being read. Master Corporal John Weglars, Officer First Class John Berg, and Officer Javier Madariaga. On Saturday, August 24th, 2019, Officer First Class Berg and Officer Madariaga were dispatched to an apartment on Cheswold Boulevard in reference to a check on the welfare complaint. There, they made contact with an elderly couple that had recently moved to this address from Philadelphia. In the process of their move, their Social Security check had been returned in the mail, and as a result, they had run out of money for food, their phones had been cut off, and their storage locker had been repossessed, leaving them with no furniture. Berg and Madariaga made several phone calls to various social services and nonprofits in an attempt to get them some things to get them through the weekend until their Social Security issue could be resolved. These efforts were met with answering services for places that weren't open on the weekends, and those that did answer suggested taking the couple to the emergency room or even to call 911 for assistance. Officer Berg then responded to the Acme and purchased groceries for the couple with his own money so that they would have food for the weekend. Officer Madariaga then coordinated with the Mattress Warehouse store and was able to arrange the purchase of a mattress, box spring, and frame at a discounted price. Master Corporal Weglars then became involved and was able to transport the newly purchased furniture to the couple's apartment. Over the next few weeks, Master Corporal Weglars continued to follow up with the couple to ensure they were able to get back on their feet. Due to their self-sacrifice and the incurred personal cost, Master Corporal Weglars, Officer First Class Berg, and Officer Madariaga are awarded the Community Policing Award. Officer First Class Mary McGrath, and Officer First Class Corey Nicholson. During the months of September and October 2019, Officer McGrath and Officer Nicholson had the idea to renovate the girls-only room at the Garfield Park PAL. They noted that there was a room with TVs and video games that the boys typically used, but not an area specifically set aside for the girls of the PAL. Officers McGrath and Nicholson completed a problem-solving impact statement outlining the need for the renovation and how useful the project could be to make community connections. Officer McGrath and Nicholson met with community members and gained support for the project with them as well. Officers McGrath and Nicholson gathered non-monetary donations and facilitated transportation of the donated goods. Officers McGrath and Nicholson utilized work time as well as their own time to put together the girls-only room, which included painting and reorganizing the room. Officers McGrath and Nicholson further established community buy-in by including the PAL girls in putting together their new room, thereby instilling a sense of ownership in the girls who would eventually utilize the room. When it was time to formally open the room, these officers contacted the public information officer to bring attention to the project. Both officers conducted media interviews and represented the division well. For building a stronger partnership with the PAL and demonstrating community service to the public, Officers Mary McGrath and Corey Nicholson are awarded the Community Policing Award. Master Corporal David Kajus, Officer First Class Amari George, Officer First Class Kyle Latwinick, Officer Javier Madariaga, Officer Michael Merrill, Officer First Class Brian Pettit, Senior Corporal Paul Smack, and Master Corporal Rand Townley Jr. On October the 12th, 2019, at 2 o'clock in the morning, D-Squad was dispatched to the area of Pike Creek Road in reference to a domestic called in by a child who advised their father was killing their mother. Prior to D-Squad's arrival, the defendant had fled in a silver Nissan Altima, taking one of the children with him. Officer Madariaga responded to the apartment and contacted the victim. Officer Madariaga learned that the suspect had forced his way into the apartment, assaulted the victim, and kidnapped their child. Officer Madariaga additionally learned that the suspect was potentially armed with a firearm and relayed this information to officers in the area. Officer Latwinick was able to locate the vehicle and conducted a vehicle stop in the area of Telegraph Road. Officer Latwinick provided the suspect with commands to exit the vehicle. The suspect eventually exited the vehicle and began utilizing the child as a barrier between himself and the police. Officer Merrill, Master Corporal Townley, Senior Corporal Smack and his canine partner Thor, and Officer First Class Pettit responded to the stop to assist Officer Latwinick. Officer Pettit armed himself with a less lethal shotgun, while Master Corporal Kajus and Officer First Class George responded to begin the negotiations with the suspect. During the negotiations, officers were able to convince the suspect to put the child down in the front seat of the vehicle, at which time Officer Pettit seized the opportunity for the application of the less lethal shotgun, firing and striking the suspect 2 times. Officer Pettit, Officer Merrill, Master Corporal Townley, Senior Corporal Smack, and K-9 Thor, Master Corporal Kajus, and Officer George immediately converged on the suspect, while Officer Latwinick grabbed the child and removed him from the situation. The suspect began to fight with officers, but was eventually subdued with the assistance of K-9 Thor. The child was uninjured during this ordeal, which transpired over 1.5 hours. The child was returned to their mother, and the suspect was charged with burglary, kidnapping, and other related charges. The safe resolution of this incident was a product of teamwork rather than any individual effort. Officer Latwinick, Officer Pettit, Officer Merrill, Master Corporal Townley, Senior Corporal Smack, Master Corporal Kajus, Officer First Class George, and Officer Madariaga are awarded the Distinguished Unit Citation. Master Corporal Stephen Donahue, and Officer Chad Taylor. On September 30th, 2019, at 10:30 p.m., Master Corporal Donahue, his canine partner Echo, and Officer Taylor responded to an apartment on Byron Court in Newark in reference to the report of a burglary in progress. The victim reported that an unknown male was in her apartment and that she had locked herself in the bedroom. Master Corporal Donahue and canine Echo were the first to arrive on scene. When Master Corporal Donahue knocked on the door and announced his presence, the suspect asked him if he wanted to die. Once Officer Taylor arrived on scene, the officers attempted entry but found that the door had been barricaded. The officers were eventually able to kick in the door, at which point Canine Echo entered the apartment and engaged the suspect. This allowed Master Corporal Donahue and Officer Taylor to take the suspect into custody and ensure the safety of the victim. For their quick action in protecting an innocent victim, Master Corporal Donahue and Officer Taylor are awarded a certificate of appreciation. Officer First Class Luis Echeverria. Officer Echeverria couldn't be here today because of a prior commitment, but his actions are commendable, and I'll read his award. Accepting his award, Sergeant Botterbush, the Patrol Executive Officer. Through his community patrols, Officer Echeverria learned that many children residing in the area had undersized coats, coats in poor condition, and in some cases didn't even own a winter coat. As an officer assigned to the Sparrow Run development, he coordinated with Child Inc. to organize a coat drive for the children in the community. Officer Echeverria worked on this project during his off hours. Officer Echeverria was ultimately able to donate winter coats to approximately 50 children in the neighborhood. Officer Echeverria's actions in organizing this event, to include purchasing some of the coats with his own funds, is beyond commendable. It speaks volumes to his character, taking into consideration the aspects of the children's health and welfare during the cold weather months, and in the end, being able to provide families with such a necessary item for their children during the holiday season. Officer Echeverria's actions further display the true care and concern we as an agency have for our communities. Officer First Class Echeverria is awarded the Community Policing Award. Every year, the Wilmington Kiwanis Club acknowledges a Newcastle County police officer for an outstanding accomplishment that occurs within each service quarter. This morning, I would like to call Betty and Van Olmsted of the Wilmington Kiwanis Club to the podium to present the Kiwanis Awards for the second quarters of 2019 and the Kiwanis Club Officer of the Year for 2019.
Our honorees for the third quarter: Master Corporal John Wigglers, Officer First Class John Berg, and Officer Javier Madriaga Azacar.
These were made in China, but before all the hubbub.
For the fourth quarter, Officer Luis Echeverria, and we know that the award will be accepted in his behalf. Does he get to keep the mic?
We'll never tell what you decide to do with it. Congratulations.
And the annual award for 2019 goes to Officer Christopher Dano, I'm sorry.
As always, we'd like to thank the entire Wilmington Kiwanis Club for their presentation of the awards. Thank you very much. And this concludes the presentation of awards for the Division of Police. Major McLucas, you can take your seat, please. And I would now call forward the Division of Emergency Medical Services.
Good morning. For the first presentation, I'd like Fire Chief Shaw from Incredale Fire Company to come up and join the CAO, please. If I could have Sergeant Beth Bratton Heck come to the front, and EMTs Reeder and Winnington from Incredale Fire Company. On December 27, 2019, Senior Sergeant Beth Bratton Heck responded to 1400 Beaverbrook Plaza for a psychiatric emergency at the request of the Delaware State Police. Senior Sergeant Bratton Heck, along with EMTs Reeder and Winnington from Incredale Fire Company, arrived to see a patient displaying signs of crisis alternating between lucidity and aggressiveness. The EMS provider spent over 2 hours on scene, communicating with the patient and preventing the situation from escalating. In the end, after gaining the patient's trust, the EMS providers got access to the patient and treated and transported him to the hospital. Facing this challenging situation with strength and compassion for the patient, resulting in the patient receiving treatment that he desperately needed, you are awarded a letter of appreciation. Congratulations on a job well done. Would the following please step forward? Chief Tan, I know he's not here. Assistant Chief Logeman, Captain Galesian, Senior Lieutenant Dudley, Lieutenant Nichols, Acting Sergeant Corporal Schustridge, Paramedics Ashley Tylinda, Paramedics Matthew Patterson, Christopher Turnbull, Hector Romero, Paramedic First Class Orcus, Christopher Collins, and Oliver Coker. On the afternoon of July 20th, 2019, the Emergency Communications Center received a call reporting a shooting at a North Wilmington nursing home. EMS senior staff, EMS platoon commanders, Senior Lieutenant Dudley and Lieutenant Nichols, Medics 1, Medic 4, 6, and 8, all responded along with Field Supervisor, Acting Sergeant Schustridge. As EMS units arrived on scene, Active Sergeant Schustridge implemented the Newcastle County Active Shooter Plan, as the alleged shooter was still unaccounted for per the law enforcement agencies in charge. Task force teams were established for entering into the building. Network communication with surrounding hospitals was established to keep them informed of the developing situation. Rescue Task Force 1 entered the building with law enforcement security team and discovered 2 deceased patients. Meanwhile, EMS personnel assumed the task of assessing all the patients in a high acuity geriatric situation, as well as reuniting all family members with their loved ones. Your ability to work together as a high-performing team is a true reflection of your success. Congratulations on a job well done, and you are awarded a unit letter of commendation. If Miss Carol Shefchick, if I got that right, would please come forward and stand next to our CAO. As I'll explain in just a moment, Carol, her son, and his friend were critically injured in an incident, and she would like to join in thanking them. So, On the afternoon of August 1st, 2019, 2 paramedic units were dispatched along with an EMS supervisor, Senior Sergeant Small. And if he would please come forward with the following: Sergeant Small, Corporal Keely Warwick, Corporal Jessica Duncan, Corporal Robert Tomchek, and Paramedic Alexandra Bastian. Medic units arrived on scene where they found 2 critically injured patients that had been struck by lightning during oncoming storms with heavy rain and strong winds. As Senior Sergeant Small arrived on the scene, he assessed the scene for potential safety issues, and they were surrounded by continuing lightning strikes in the midst of the storm. Despite stressful and potentially dangerous circumstances, the crews worked feverishly to render critical advanced life support to both the patients, one in cardiac arrest and one severely burned and injured. The reward of your hard work and dedicated effort for caring for these 2 critically injured patients that resulted in both the patients surviving and being discharged from the hospital was an outstanding achievement. For this, you are awarded the Distinguished Unit Citation. Congratulations on your outstanding achievement.
I want to say thank you to all of you for your service. Saving lives is one of the most important jobs in this world, especially for a mother. There is nothing as special as a mother's love. Seeing my son Greg and his friend Nathan flat on their backs, not moving as lightning bolted across my fence, is a sight I will never forget. When I got to my son, the first thing he said was, "Lightning, ? And then feet, hot, followed by torso, hot. When he said he was having some trouble breathing, I could say with great confidence, the paramedics are on their way, knowing that they would take great care of him. I didn't know for sure what was going on with Nathan, but later I learned that his heart had stopped and you literally brought him back to life. And the amazing thing is, at one point, it was pouring rain and there was thunder and lightning all around you, and you just kept on working like the sun was shining brightly. Both guys are doing great. My son was teaching again a month after the incident. Nathan had gotten his master's degree. He and his wife were returning home to Richmond, Virginia from vacation before starting his new job. He did start his new job a few months later after some recuperating and is doing quite well. You all are a very special group of people to be doing this kind of work every day. Not everyone can work in these traumatic situations day in and day out. I admire all of you. So on behalf of their mothers, wives, family, and friends, I thank you so much for taking such good care of our guys. I don't care if you were just doing your job, you did it superbly. This mother couldn't have asked for any better care of their child. And Keely, you are now our hero.
Thank you, Chief Logeman. You can take your seat. I would now ask Coordinator David Carpenter to come to the podium for the presentation of the awards for the Office of Emergency Management.
Chief Miller. Good morning, everyone. If I could have Deputy Chief Dominic Mills to the front and center, and Chief Deeroff, you're also come front and center with him. Chief Deeroff and Deputy Chief Don Mills, especially on behalf of the entire Newcastle County Department of Public Safety, we would like to commend the Minko's Fire Company No. 1 Incorporated, its officers and members, along with mutual aid assistants for their leadership and actions in response to the August 18, 2019 Beach Baron twin-engine plane crash and fatality near Stanton, Delaware. Your actions during the more than 7.5 hours proved to benefit the overall response, the critical information, and properly manage the mitigation and aspects of a low-frequency, high-profile incident with dignity and preservation of evidence for investigative purposes. Deputy Chief Don Mills provided overall command and leadership of the response efforts on scene. In coordination and collaboration with the Delaware State Police, Newcastle County EMS, DENREC Emergency Response, DelDOT, Fire Mutual Aid, Delaware National Guard Crash Fire Rescue, the Delaware River and Bay Authority, the Federal Aviation Administration, the National Transportation Safety Board, and the Delaware Division of Forensics. This event was an infrequent disaster scenario that we are prone to experience here in Newcastle County, and contains unique challenges that require certain communication and interpersonal skills, albeit this one even required a little bit of a trek to the scene. The citizens of this community benefited by MCWIS's efforts for this event. The department's dedication to the communities we serve, true concern for others, and resourcefulness resulted in making our community safer and more firm. For your work, we are presenting this letter of commendation. If I could have David Tynan, Fire Marshal, City of Newark, front and center. Again, on behalf of the entire Newcastle County Department of Public Safety, we would like to commend David Tynan for his coordination and actions in response to the July 5th through 6th, 2019 Villa Belmont Condos electrical fire at 72 Welch Track Road in Newark, Delaware. Your actions during the initial response and evacuation and sheltering operations proved to benefit the overall response and coordination, providing services to a vulnerable population and mitigating further escalation of emergency from medical complications. David, as the city's emergency management representative and liaison, who serves as their fire marshal, was the main point of contact for coordination of repair and restoration of the electrical services, for coordination with Newark Fire, and providing support from the city for the sheltering component. This event had unique circumstances to include high ambient temperatures, building characteristics, a vulnerable population, and timeliness of the event that all culminated in requiring an emergency management perspective and collaboration. The citizens of the community benefited by David's efforts and the City of Newark's efforts for this event. Your dedication, true concern, and resourcefulness are being presented today in a letter of commendation. Thank you, David. Thank you, Chief Miller. Okay.
I was going to call you up there, but you're already up there. All right. Moving on to the Division of Emergency Communications.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Fisher, Assistant Platoon Leader for the 911 Center, and I'll be presenting the awards for the Emergency Communications Division today. When I call your name to receive an award, please respond to the front of the room and to my right. I'd like to call telecommunicators for police, Tom Kern, Michael Saintville, Public Safety Operator, Natalie Whiff, and Delaware State Police Dispatcher, Nicole Peregrino. On July 19th at approximately 11 hours, the Newcastle County 911 Center began receiving multiple calls reporting an active shooter inside the Manor Care Healthcare Facility on Falk Road. Initial reports indicated that at least one victim had been shot and that the shooter was still inside the building. The facility was occupied by numerous citizens, including many that could not be immediately evacuated due to their health conditions. Police, fire, and EMS units were dispatched to the scene upon receipt of the first call. Communications personnel began relaying updated information to the responding units, such as the location of the suspect within the building and the locations of the residents that could not be evacuated. They worked together tirelessly to coordinate and document the locations of the units on the perimeter, as well as the locations of the interior units as they swept the building and cleared it of any threats. This was a large-scale event that included responses from multiple agencies. It would have been much more difficult to manage this incident without the collaborative efforts of these 911 professionals. For their efforts, these dedicated professionals have been awarded the Critical Incident Award. I'd like to call the following public safety operators to the front of the room: Natalie Whip, Marky Baker, and Diane Davis. They'll be accepting, on behalf of their shift, a unit citation. A significant and destructive storm passed through Newcastle County on the afternoon of July 22nd, 2019. As a result, the 911 Center received 645 emergency calls between 1600 and 1900 hours, relating to everything from motor vehicle accidents, trees down, flooding, etc. And this was in addition to the emergency calls that they handle on any given day. This was a 213% increase in call volume from the same time period on the previous day. For their efforts during this storm, the telecommunicators and public safety operators are receiving the unit citation. And Marky Baker, you can return to the front of the room, please. Thank you. On July 24th, 2019, PSO Baker received a 911 call from an 80-year-old female complaining of low blood pressure and feeling faint. The caller became dizzy and unresponsive while on the line. PSO Baker indicated in the CAD that she heard a loud noise and still had an open line, quickly notifying dispatchers of the update. Fire Ward personnel upgraded the response to include an engine, thinking forced entry may be required as a result. PSO Baker remained on the line until EMS arrived on scene with the patient. PSO Baker's attention to detail enabled EMS dispatchers to coordinate a better response to an evolving situation. Marky has earned the 911 Professional Award for her efforts. The following public safety operators return to the front of the room: Natalie Whip, Marky Baker, and Delaware State Police dispatchers Nicole Peregrino, Rebecca Witkowski, and Erica Yanero. You gotta stop being so good, I don't know. On August 18th, 2019, Newcastle County Police responded to the report of a loud party in the 3700 block of Valley Brook Drive. There was a report of shots being fired as people were fleeing the area. PSO WIF obtained a vehicle description of the suspects, and units were able to locate it while en route. However, the vehicle refused to stop and led officers on a short pursuit from Pike Creek to Newport, where it eventually crashed. 3 suspects then fled on foot while units set up a perimeter. Recon broadcasted the descriptions, and Trooper 4 assisted while canine tracks were conducted. All 4 suspects were quickly taken into custody, and a firearm was recovered. This incident involved cohesive teamwork involving Newcastle County Police Department, DSP, Ellesmere PD, Newport PD. The combined efforts from Newcastle County and DSP Recom, as well as several other calls and information provided by the public safety operators, contributed to a positive outcome in this situation. For their efforts, all involved are receiving the Critical Incident Award. I'm going to be recognizing Public Safety Operator Lance Bernardo, who unfortunately can't be here, but his actions are to be recognized. On October 6th, 2019, at 9:42 hours, PSO Lance Bernardo received a call from a female who was reporting that her son and his girlfriend, along with 2 other juveniles, had just driven their vehicle into the C&D Canal. During the course of the call, it was determined that the caller was reportedly just ahead of them when this occurred, and she was a witness to the event. Bernardo obtained specifics as to exactly where they were on the canal banks, consistently updating the CAD with all relevant information. Bernardo spent the next 13 minutes speaking with the mother, trying to collect as many details as possible to ensure the quickest possible response for emergency services to reach those in need. Although this is a call that one rarely is presented with and had an unfortunate, tragic outcome, Lance maintained his professionalism and composure until the very end. For this reason, he has earned the Critical Incident Award today. Regarding the same event, there will also be a unit citation in which I'd like to call Assistant Platoon Leader Fire and Medical Scott Dunkelberger to accept an award on behalf of his shift. On October 6, 2019, at 9:38 hours, the 911 center was notified of a vehicle that ran off of the road into the C&D Canal. Fireboard C Squad worked efficiently and professionally during this incident. However, despite their exhaustive efforts with the first responders, 4 victims ended up drowning. This shift operated at the highest level of professionalism, all while keeping up with ongoing radio communications and multiple agency notifications, thus continuing to answer incoming 911 and non-emergency calls and dispatching additional incidents without delay. This shift kept their composure to ensure that the proper resources, notifications, documentation was all completed, thoroughly ensuring everything was covered during this incident. The communications between everyone in the room, from public safety operators, recon, and fire medical personnel, was exceptional. For their calm demeanors and professionalism, they are being awarded the Critical Incident Award. That concludes the awards for the Emergency Communication Division.
This time, can I have retired Assistant Chief Dennis Quinn to the front of the room, please? Dennis started his career in communications in 1976 as a Delaware State Police dispatcher. 4 years later, in 1980, he began his career with the Newcastle County as emergency call operator. Dennis climbed through the ranks of the Emergency Communications Division, finally attained the rank of Assistant Chief in 1998. Dennis is one of the first civilian FBI certified hostage negotiators for Newcastle County. Over his years of service to the citizens and first responders in Newcastle County, Dennis received numerous awards and letters of commendation. Although Dennis retired in May 2011, he always keeps close with his communications family and continues to offer a level of support during tragic incidents. Chief.
So Dennis, 2 years after you left, I became chief and started a new procedure or a new policy where we give retirement badges to those that make full retirement. You were 2 years short of making that badge because I wasn't chief yet. Here's your retirement badge.
Thank you. That concludes the presentation of awards today. If I could please have Father McVoy to the podium for the benediction.
Let us pray. we conclude this opportunity to share the gifts that God has given us to our community, to our fellow co-workers, and to the community at large. May God continue to provide you the sustenance that you need to flourish, sustain all things as He rules all things, and allows you to persevere in good consignment judgment with understanding. So let this time be forward that you will continue to do all the things that you have been asked to do by God's grace and His mercy for the citizens of New Castle County. May God be praised. Amen.
Thank you, Captain McVoy. And on behalf of the entire Department of Public Safety, I would like to thank everyone for their attendance today. And again, congratulate the award recipients for their accomplishments. I invite everyone to stay for some light refreshments in the back. Thank you for coming.